have committed 5 years of my life to being a board member for the Rancho Unified School District. I've been selected by my fellow board members as president for 5 years, and I appreciate that. It's been great. I have loved every minute of it. But I am tired. I think we need new people. We need new people. And one of the things I did want to share is that I value integrity and honesty above all else. I think I've committed over 30 years of my life serving this community in different capacities, whether it be school site council, the chaperone for the band kids, traveling to different parades, hemming uniform pants for the band kids. I mean, I've done pretty much everything from, cleaning restrooms of kids in North Park when I've done everything. But so one of the things that I value is my integrity. And I wanted to bring up something that is happening. I'm hearing from my community. So I'm getting, because people know me very, very well in the community, I'm getting calls from different groups from the community and who are telling me that one of my fellow board members, I thought if I don't run for office, I'm not going to get attacked any longer. I have been seriously attacked by Unión del Barrio and other groups associated with one of my fellow board members. And I thought, well, that's going to give me a rest. But the attacks continue to continue, even though I'm not running for the school board. And I have to share with you, and I want to be as transparent as I can. So I get calls from different groups saying, Dr. Villon, are you supporting, for example, Mr. Lara? And I said, you know what, at this point, no, I'm not endorsing him. And says, oh, he shared with us that the reason why you're not endorsing him is because you tried to force the board to appoint new superintendent, which was quite a shock to me, because that is not the case, and I want to be totally transparent. Again, I have two fellow board members. I would have had this conversation perfectly fine with all 5 board members being present. So what happened a year ago, well, in 2017, when we were in the process of hiring, looking for a superintendent, we did hire a search firm, and we came up with some pretty strong candidates. We have our present superintendent here, who was unanimously selected as our superintendent. But in the process of us conducting these interviews, we're in the middle of an interview, and all of a sudden, Mr. Orosco, and board members, if you want to add to this, you can. Mr. Orosco says, we're looking for a person when that person's here in the room already. So I was asked to leave the room, and there was discussion that maybe I should step up to the plate and I should be superintendent. That's what I found out after the fact. I didn't know. I was asked to leave the room. So I left the room, and then every meeting during like a week and a half, I was asked to remove myself from the meeting. Needless to say, what happened was that Mr. Lara calls me at home one day on a Saturday, says, this is getting, and Mr. Lara, by the way, called me at home to encourage me to be the superintendent. Mr. Orozco did the same thing. My response said, no, we're in the middle of a process. I'm not going to go there. I didn't start this journey thinking I'm going to be superintendent. I've had that opportunity in the past, and I've said no to other districts. So all this was new to me. I was involved in this whole conversation. Mr. Lara calls me on a Saturday, says, it's getting messy. I said, it is messy. You need to quit that. Let me handle it. Tuesday we have a meeting. I'll put a stop to this, okay? Sunday night, he says, okay, Dr. Villon, I'm gonna wait. Sunday night, all of the board members get a very confidential email from our legal counsel. It floored me. Pages and pages of a statement made by Mr. Lara with the approval of the board, of accusations of I had planned everything. This was my idea. Just hurting my character, my integrity. I was very, very hurt. I was very, very angry. During the meeting, I called legal counsel, and I said, what has happened here? And maybe you can take it from there, Dr. Merino, because I was not involved in the meetings, and Ms. De La O.
Thank you, Dr. Villon. Well, I do have to agree with you that the idea of having Dr. Villon be considered for superintendent did come from Mr. Orosco, and I hope he's listening, but I can definitely repeat this to him, that he did bring it up, and because we had gone through so many interviews and we just, through the first round, we just didn't find anyone qualified. Definitely this was before Mr. Ford was interviewed. So yes, Dr. Villon, I can attest to that it was Mr. Orozco's idea, and not knowing the legalities involved, I really honestly didn't know any conflicts, but in that room when we asked Dr. Villon to step out, I definitely did not hear Mr. Lara disagree. He did agree. He was in agreement. As we saw legal counsel, and as a matter of fact, Mr. Orozco contacted Bonnie Garcia, our legal counsel, who is no longer with us, who was at that time not working with us, just to have a conversation. Thus, this is the reason why I opposed Mr. Garcia being our legal counsel, because I knew there was a relationship between Mr. Orozco and Mr. Garcia. When he comes to us, when the recommendation comes to us that he be our legal counsel, I knew it was wrong because I knew there was already a relationship between Mr. Garcia and Mr. Orozco. So this is abhorrent, because we did get instructions from legal counsel to delete this letter that came out defaming Dr. Villon. So the communication and the transparency were definitely not there. I'm sorry to say that you got hurt in the process, Dr. Villon, because this was not your doing. We needed to, we're just looking at all options, but it was never ever your idea, or did you ever consider it? As a matter of fact, you did raise concerns whether that would be the proper thing to do, and thus we sought legal counsel. So I'm sorry that you have gone through all this and that this letter has resurfaced, because we were supposed to have all deleted that from our records.
So I'm going to confirm and establish that that's what happened. Dr. Merino is correct, and Dr. Villon had nothing to do with it. Mr. Orozco did have a relationship with Mr. Bonnie Garcia, and Dr. Villon had nothing to do with this. I was in the room, and the idea came from Mr. Orozco. It was no flight of idea from Dr. Villon at all. It would have been beautiful to have had it. She's a wonderful person, so knowledgeable and supportive to everything, but it's not the way to do it. There are channels, and there's protocols, and there's conflict of interest. So, not to break the Brown Act, we have to just discuss within ourselves, and it was a mess, and I'm very sorry that Dr. Villon had to go through this and get all this repercussion that's coming to her in the phone calls and through her emails, and all the battering that she's been taking these last few months, and it's not through her own fault.
And I just want to say, and I'm saying this to the community, is that that letter, it was a pretty extensive 15-page letter. My name was mentioned 33 times. It's all based on Mr. Lara's information that was given that was wrong information. There's a retraction letter from legal counsel. Legal counsel came and apologized to me in front of all the board members for writing that letter that was not factual. There's a retraction letter that they wrote apologizing and requesting that every single board member who received that letter deletes it from their files. Because again, it was not based on factual information. It was based on one board member who, for whatever reason, lying to legal counsel. I do have the letter of retraction. I also want the community and board members to know in the cabinet that I informed Mr. Matt Matthews about this incident. I informed Mr. Aguilera Ford about this incident. I informed legal counsel about this incident, just so that to follow protocols, proper protocols. So when I get a call from the community member saying, board member Lara said, and Orosco say they will generate this letter for, that's a violation, and they might be facing another lawsuit. So I just wanted to make it clear to everyone in the community that when Mr. Aguilera Ford was hired, it was a unanimous decision that we will, as the superintendent, will support him as long as he's here, and that we will continue doing business with integrity. Because someone who doesn't have integrity has no right serving our community. And I needed to be transparent and let you know what is happening. And this is probably my second to my last meeting, and it was important for me to say that to my community and to my fellow board members and cabinet members. Thank you for entertaining me. I took more than my minute, but that needed to be said. Okay? Let's move on to the next item, which is item 12F, conflict of interest, school board. I heard several of you mention the conflict of interest, and I agree with you there. We have a problem, and I can, with fellow board members, I need to discuss this with you, is that there is a conflict of interest of a board member, Mr. Orozco, visiting schools, campaigning. There is a conflict of interest of Mr. Orozco attending conferences for his consultancy firm while the district pays for those conferences. And he's using that, so I like for us, Mr. Aguilera Ford, to look into legal counsel and see what the technicalities are. But I know that recently I attended a conference where the district paid for his way there, for his hotel, and he was doing a conference for his consultancy firm. He was giving information. I had several board members from neighboring school district approaching me with a concern, so we need to look into that. There's also a conflict of interest, and I will report this to you in private, of consultants coming to me saying that Mr. Orozco has asked them for donations for a campaign, and they are concerned. Their response is, we don't want to go to jail. We don't want you to be asking for money, but I want to be as transparent and go on record as saying there are those concerns from people that are working with us at this point. And I need my fellow board members to know that as well.
And I'd like to confirm Dr. Villon, what she's saying. I, as well, attended a couple of these conferences and visually saw Mr. Orozco handing cards out and having drinks, lunch, whatever. And I would think that's not even attending the workshops, not attending any of the conferences that were being held. Just basically, it's working on his own company, his own whatever his ideas were. It had nothing to do with the education he was going to be receiving at those conferences. So I'm just confirming that.
Okay, in terms of conflict of interest, I wanna touch on the Educational Foundation. Yes, I have to agree. I have always questioned this, and the reason why we had an update is because it was at my insistence and my request. We had absolutely, as a board member, I had absolutely zero information, and this had been going on for almost a year. And at the last meeting, when I believe was when we had the presentation, it was stated that the two board members serving on the board of directors were either selected or voted on by the board, and that was a false statement. The Educational Foundation never came up before a board meeting for discussion, as we now have these items on tonight's agenda in previous meetings. The Educational Foundation was just like born from one day to the next. And so I really didn't know the purpose or how this was going to be funded. I have been on educational foundations in the past, and there are discussions with school boards. And I understand that the foundation does not report to the board; it's not under the jurisdiction of the board. However, it is a district-related entity, which ultimately the board has to be accountable for, or at least respond to. In terms of the board members that were selected, I have to honestly say that I don't know how this happened, because it never came like the ad hoc committee that, you know, we make a decision here as to who's going to serve on such committees. Other board, for example, the ROP board, the decision was made publicly who should sit on that board, and so on. But for the educational foundation, it never came to the board, so I never had an input as to who should serve on this board. I was very surprised to find out that you know, two members have been selected. I thought, well, there's some chocolate or something. But anyway, so no, I just wanted to correct the record as well, because I was never given an opportunity to provide any input whatsoever. And I did question, I continue to question those that are on the Education Foundation, and I'm still questioning what's happening to the funds. I know some has been given to some schools, which is wonderful, but at least there is some accountability. However, I still cannot say that I know what has happened to all of the $50,000 plus, or how these are going to be used in the future. Thank you. That's all I have to say on that.
Thank you, Dr. Merino. We're going to move on to Board of Education announcements and acknowledgements. I'll start with Dr. Merino.
Well, I have the floor. I'll be brief. I want to start on a very upbeat, because it seems, and it is not, tonight is not a Lara Orosco bash, a Lara Orosco. We're just stating facts here. But I want to start on a positive note, that I did attend the pep rally at the high school. And it had been a very, very, very long time since I had been at a pep rally. And let me tell you, I was really excited, and that reaffirmed why I'm sitting on this board, because the work that these kids are doing, and the staff and the administration, you know, that went to put it all together, and Ms. Cárdenas was there as well. So the excitement, the spirit, it was just wonderful. I had a great time being there. I want to congratulate the seniors, the Poco Loco seniors, for taking the prize in terms of the pep rally. One other comment that I want to say is that, you know, as board members, we make a commitment to be at meetings, regular scheduled meetings, and to make every effort possible to be at special board meetings. And, you know, life gets in the way, and family and etc. gets in the way, and sometimes we're not able to make those meetings. However, I'm just concerned that, you know, 2 board members have not been here for the past 3 meetings, and I would not be surprised if we don't see them until the new board is seated. This is not it. We have a responsibility to be here. I was not here at the previous meeting, but I did inform Dr. Villon and the superintendent that I had to leave, and I was here for closed session. I did make an effort to be here for closed session. I did not leave abruptly, as I understand the other board member did. Not showing up to board meetings is not what we want to see on board members. Allowing personal reasons over professional responsibility is not something we want to see on board members. So I do hope to at least see both board members here for the next 2 meetings, and definitely Mr. Orozco for as long as we're on the board for the next 2 years. But anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Merino. Ms. Delao?
On a positive note, I ran into a mom that I knew and lost track of each other, ran into each other, has a daughter that's going to Burke STEM Academy. We talked a lot about that, and she's doing great. She's doing great there. She's in the robotics program, And it just made me so happy to hear that we know our schools are good and that our teachers are dedicated, but when you actually hear from the parents and the children, I mean, this little girl was just so bright-eyed and just talked about her school and her teacher and what she's learning. So that's positive. I'm hearing a lot of things about the bond as I am in the community about the bond issue. Our residents are concerned about the money. They're concerned about Mr. Orosco and Mr. Lara, and we're getting support from them to us three on how we want to protect the bond and the voters who voted for it. And I stand for the protection of this bond money and that it be placed and be how do I want to say, visible or transparent. If the buildings need to be torn down, demolished, do they in fact need to be? And the school should be reassessed totally, and hopefully it will come through the steps and get a reputable and good construction company. And we're doing our job here. We're trying our best up here. So for that, I shall say adios.